So to start my aloo wadi, I have these 5 medium potatoes that I've peeled. I will cube them. I've chopped up about 1 medium onion. There are these 4 tomatoes. They're really tiny. I'm going to make a puree out of this with some yogurt and also some ginger. I will add some garlic as well when I saute the onions. And then I have these wadis. These are really spicy lentil balls, what we call wadis, Amritsari wadiya. And so I've taken one wadi and just kind of split, just kind of made big pieces out of it, just split it in my mortar. So I have about half a cup of wadis. And this is what I'm going to use in addition to a few spices. So let's start. So please excuse my hoarse voice. To start off, I've got a pan heating, and this pan is kind of old and it's not as non-stick, so I just kind of used a little bit of spray oil. You don't have to do that at all if you've got a good pan. And I will add to it about a teaspoon of cumin seeds and roast them a bit till they're lightly brown, just fragrant. You don't want to burn them at all. So just move them around and lightly brown it. And once that's lightly browned, I'll add about half a teaspoon of minced ginger and roast that a bit as well. And you can see over here my pan is fairly hot. But I've got it on medium low, and now I will add the chopped onions. Now I didn't chop my onions very fine. I did try, but I'm not very good at chopping, and in hindsight I should have just run it through the food processor. I don't know why I didn't, but anyway, so try to chop your onions as fine as possible or run it through your food processor so they are finely chopped, and then you can add that to your hot pan as well. And I am going to add a touch of salt. Now I don't add any like chilies or anything like that in this recipe because the spicy lentil balls are fairly spicy. So over here to cook my onions, I've added a touch of water, and I will just stir it well. As you can see, the water is kind of turned a little brown from the cumin seeds that and the garlic that I had roasted earlier in the pan, and that'll really flavor the onions well. And I'll cover it and cook it on medium-low heat for about 5 minutes. So actually, in hindsight, I should have just made this in my pressure cooker, but every once in a while I like to use the pan. So while the onions are cooking, I've got my food processor finally out, and I put the 4 little tomatoes, I just roughly chopped it, put it in. Also added about half a teaspoon of ginger, and now I will add 3 tablespoons of yogurt. Now certainly you can reduce or increase the yogurt depending on how creamy you want it. For my 5 potatoes and these 4 tiny little tomatoes, I find the 3 tablespoons is good enough. And now I will roughly cube up my potatoes. Now potatoes are like something that not like other veggies where everything needs to be exactly the sort of the similar size. With potatoes, it's actually nicer to have different sizes because they'll be at different levels of doneness, and that's part of the charm of eating potatoes. So it's fairly forgiving in how you chop them up. You don't have to chop them up fairly evenly. So here are my 5 minutes. I used them well, and my onions are fairly well cooked. I'll give it a good stir, and you can see they're nice and translucent. They've taken on some of the brownness of the cumin and the garlic. I'll add a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder and half a teaspoon of coriander powder, and add in my mixture that I had churned through the food processor. and I'll give this a good stir. So again, this is I like the yogurt because it is an oil-free recipe, so I do want to add a little bit of natural fat. So I prefer the yogurt as opposed to the oil. It's got some calcium, it's got some good fats. Anyway, so I've now added in my crushed up or chopped wadis and also my potatoes, which are also roughly chopped. They're not of the same size on purpose. Some of the smaller pieces will mix, completely dissolve and make the gravy thick, and the others will be nice and edible and, will hold its form well. And then some will be sort of in between. And that's part of the charm of eating a potato curry. And I'll cover it and cook it on the low medium heat for about 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, here it is, the potatoes. Now, depending on your potatoes, I've had potatoes in the past that were fully cooked in 10 minutes. These potatoes were not. This is a new batch of potatoes, so I had to give it more time. But do test your potatoes to make sure that they need more time. And that's what I was saying earlier. I should have just, in hindsight, made it in the pressure cooker. But sometimes it's nice to just cook it in the pan. Anyway, I didn't like the color. I don't think these tomatoes gave it a good color. So I added a tablespoon of tomato paste. And obviously, if your tomatoes are nice and red and they are color and they give a color, you don't have to add it. But I wanted to add that. And so I did give it a full additional 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, the potatoes were just at the right doneness level that I like. Oh my goodness, just look at that curry. It was so delicious. I'm going to add a few final touches, but this baby is ready to be devoured. It was so delicious. I'm going to just add a little bit of kasoori methi. And I did add a little bit of lemon juice as well, because these wadis, as I said before, they are a spice bomb, right? So you want to cut the spice in any way possible, and that's one of the reasons why I add the yogurt as well. I added a 1/4 teaspoon of garam masala, and that finishes up this particular curry of aloo wadi. Do try it. It was just amazing. We just had it with, look at it, at the final version. It was just so delicious. And if you like it, would appreciate a like and a subscribe. Enjoy.